الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Just wanted to fill in a few of the misconceptions as to what is transpiring in this spiritual and non-spiritual arena when it comes to Muslims here in the United States, and what it is that have been the norm for Muslims in the United States. Of course, realizing that because we are Muslim, one of our first references, or the first reference for us, is the Quran. And whenever we defer, the Quran is to be our point of reference to discuss where our misunderstanding or where our miscoordination was. But obviously, we cannot just say Quran and then Quran comes. We have to study and we have to know the Quran. And more importantly, we have to have the doctrination of the Quran. In other words, we have to be respectful and have the attributes of those who really and sincerely want to come together and talk in receiving the reward of Allah for doing so. It's strange that as we are to be those of consultation, those of mutual consultation instead, despite all of the issues that Muslims have, to sit and talk about them, to sit and discuss them on a regular basis, which will enable us to move a step further and closer into dealing with our problems. We more alike in America have practically compromise. Everybody understands that there is a very serious misinformation of what Islam is, and many of us understand that this has been the case really since we've been alive. There's been misinformation on how we are to live the Quran, or how we are to live according to the laws of the Quran. Not just, okay, we're going to pray and then we're going to fast and to give zakah, but we've neglected the shahada. We've neglected applying the shahada. And when we neglect the shahada, what happens is that we become less and less about the oneness of Allah, less and less about the divinity of the message of Allah. We become less and less of understanding the mission of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because spiritually speaking, there is nothing more spiritual than the shahada. It's unfortunate that people have come up with some ideology of their own and getting followers to take care of their families after they die and things of this nature. I mean, it's a big business where people basically are taking knowledge that they know is going to somehow benefit them in this life, because they're doing it for worldly things. And this is what they've managed to do, to take the religion and to make mockery of it, because they've already found a lot of misinformation. I think that the problem is when those of us, or anyone for that matter, knows they have a problem, there is an issue, but they don't want to do anything about it. We think that by not doing something is going to keep our skin safe. It's going to be a very, very positive thing that we did not do anything and we did not get into any trouble with any of the people. Another very serious misinformation is, when some of us realize that nobody is doing something, so we want to do something. So what do? We get together and we have a great plan to build a nice building, a nice center, what have you, so that the people will come, and we'll be able to have prayer there and iftars and Ramadan functions. Yeah. So once we get this building and people start to come, we become know-it-alls. Now we've been able to do what it is that we've set out to do. Now we know it all. We are mightier than they. In other words, the arrogance has really kicked in to where nobody can tell us anything anymore because we have built this grandiose, center mega of a house of, we say it's a house of Allah, but really we built it so that again we can see activities going on in there that we would be able to have another uh, time spent, another means or another place where we can just spend time away from home, another social club. This is really why we built it, so that we would have the connection, so that, the politicians also would understand that, what we have some ballots behind our words, this type of thing. And there is a problem with that because, again, majority of people who are actually going to these models do not understand that uh, you're aiding and abetting in the conspiracy to lower the standards of Islam when you're assisting. You know that this is wrong, but you don't want to do anything about it. Is in itself a problem. Realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you why you did nothing. He will ask, you did not do anything, although you had the means to do it. Why is that? But I think that when this is what we have been mimicking, any of us, not every last one of us, I cannot say every single Muslim citizen or every single one who says that they're a Muslim, but majority of uh, what I have seen over a course of 27 years in Richmond is that when people get into these settings and they realize that something is wrong, or these things are going on, either they keep their mouths shut or they really talk about it on a very small scale, but never really want to do anything about it. They believe that as long as I'm going inside of these places and I'm praying, I have great reward, I have great blessing. But obviously, where did you get that idea from? Not the Quran, because the Quran, quite different from the Islam of Christianity, because that's what it is in America, a country of Christianity. So they say, and you live under Christian law, and you have to adapt to the Christian law and the whatever. And that's what Muslims have done in America. They've compromised the deen to where it looks more and identifies more with Christianity. And I'm not going to say, look at the text, compare the Bible with the Quran. No. But how Muslims are set up in our in our regions here in America is as Christians are set up and as Jews are set up. And you're asked, or if you ask them, why are you doing as they, because they would tell you, because this is the way Jews and Christians are set up. But where's the Quran? You have Islam without Quran? No, we have the Quran, it's on the shelves, but you don't apply it. No, we don't know anything about it. That's not our business. Our business is for people to come and pray and go. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was never given that command. You just pray and go on about your business. There's no business other than this Islam. And this Islam is to spread. We have to give the correct da'wah. Unfortunately, we're not there yet to give the da'wah. But I think that as time goes on, inshallah, the knowledge and the true wisdom will come to pass. Because at the end of the day, people are very smart. You have children who are growing up and they're starting to see for themselves and realize for themselves. They're not counting on, just whatever parents say, whatever we're going to do. But they see the division. The children that we spoke to over a period of 2 months and a half within the West End as well as the southern part of Richmond or southern south of the river is that yes, there are disunity. We have disunity. We have mistrust. People do not keep their word. Many people were interested in why we were asking the questions, but they understood. And again, the question was, what are the major issues that you see in our Muslim communities? I mean, people are going out and explaining that we do not see any real solution to our issues here. In other words, management is not coming up with anything real. I mean, yeah, we hear about money. We want the money. We need more money. More money is needed for this or for that, but nothing is being raised for a program to be there for the widows, for the orphans, to be there for those who are destitute, those who are elderly, those who are poor. What are our economic standards and goals? As it was done during the legendary legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his companions. I mean, you don't care about that. No, we don't. So what kind of Islam do you have? I mean, how do you expect this Islam to thrive and to prosper? No, we're just going to keep building buildings, and whoever likes it can come, and whoever doesn't like it can go somewhere else and establish their own. Well, that's what's been going on. Everybody who doesn't like it has been going somewhere else, and they've been creating their own system of Islam or Islam. Okay, bottom line, it's Islam or Herlam, but it's not Al-Islam. And then also we have, again, people taking care of that type of misinformation. And how are they doing it is that they're picking up whatever they like of Quran, of Hadith, however they like to pick it up, and assert divinity to themselves. And this is, we have the prime example to be Mr. Mubarak Jilani, the founder of TMOA, also Jamaatul Fukra. Back in the 80s, he came to the United States, and people did not understand what has come to light. But he was a Pakistani sheikh. Well, he said he was a Pakistani sheikh, and to his credit, yes, beyond 35, anybody beyond 35, you can be called a sheikh according to the Arabic culture. Some say 30, some say 35, some may even say 40, but he's older than that. Anyway, according to what the authentic reports that we have is that he practically came into what was the Darul Islam movement, an all African American movement. The Dar did not have any Arabs or Pakistanis. The Dar was an indigenous Afro-American movement. It was in all major cities. It had a factory, an oil factory. It had its own publications. The Dar al-Islam also had an army, a paramilitary army. We know about that too. Anyhow, we do know that as the Nation of Islam, as well as the civil rights movements, those of Dr. King's efforts and the liking of Medgar Evans, they were all infiltrated. We know that the Darul Islam was infiltrated, and after everything is said and done, the infiltration was to break up the Darul Islam, which it did, and the one who was sent to do that was Mr. Mubarak Jilani. Came saying and asserting to himself to be a jihadist, Qadri, Sufi teacher and spiritual guide, and all these things that he asserted to himself. And people believed just because of the fact that he said, and he had a very well set up. He had a minor in psychology and was able to use the psychological ability that he had learned. It's also in his genealogy videos as far as his sorcery abilities. But he used all of that to indoctrinate this Darul Islam, or the takeaway from Darul Islam, which was now known as the Jamaatul Fukra, Obviously, he stayed away from the United States because he was on the no-fly list prior to 9/11, 2001. To make a very long story short, today, after his passing, he's only been deceased for a year and he hadn't been coming back to the United States at all, because of the terrorist activities that he had been assigned, or he had assigned African Americans to do in the United States as well as in Canada on behalf of the Pakistani intelligence. But now where we are is that, if we look at the White Hawk and what they believe the White Hawk is, how they're believing that spiritualism, he's a spiritual leader, and a spiritual custodian, although he has deceased, Allah has seized him, and there's nothing any of your followers or any of you listening can do about that. When Allah takes, none can reverse that. Allah has taken him. That's it. But literally, where you have people saying that they're Muslims, but they're worshiping somebody else. They're worshiping other than Allah. In other words, this is what the Quran says. No, put the Quran aside. Jilani said this. I'm going to do this to you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore because of the fact that I love Jilani so much. But Allah Ta'ala said that you are not to cut off the ties of kinship, and you only have 3 days not to talk to your Muslim sibling. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is very clear. So you went against Allah and against Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Why? Because you don't want to accept the truth that this man, although you asserted him to be a descendant of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would see Imam Ali radiallahu anhu karamallahu wajhahu come take him up in as a little boy in front of his grandmother, because you want to accept the tales instead of embracing the truth. You want to defend falsehood. You want to be a good, obedient, because we know, and things that he's saying, that he says on video, that he considered African Americans as slaves. He said, you all need to be taught how to be human beings before you even taught Islam, this man. Although Jamaat Darul Islam was already a very fortified and solidified movement, a national movement back in the 60s going into 70s. And 80s is when this man was sent by the American intelligence to come and break up Darul Islam, and is proving today that it was successful. But what I'm going to tell the TMOA members and talibs, really, we don't have any animosity towards any one of you. No matter what you have against us, no matter how much you love your murshid, we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than that. No matter how much you love your community and will not want to forsake it for anything in this world, this is how much we love the Quran. This is how much we love the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We are offering and suggesting for you to come on to any public platform and openly discuss these matters, because as of now, Mr. Mubarak Jilani did not have the right to be translating or giving any kind of explanation of the Quran because of his lack of basic Quranic education, which is apparent in his videos. Number two, it was strange and sad that it was unacceptable for him to try and to give a clear message in a language that he could not speak properly, which is English. We see that also. Number three, was not acceptable that he was trying to also quote hadith. We find that unacceptable also, because he was not a muhaddith. A muhaddith is what he had to be in order to do that. So if he taught you Islam, he taught you Islam. He taught you Islam without Quran, without proper chain of the Quran, proper chain of the Hadith, and furthermore, without a proper chain in the Qadri Sufi order, because he's never been able to present a physical shaykh. And if you really want to go back to Abdul Qadir Jilani and Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib as to being his teachers, fair enough, fine enough. But I urge you, which one of you believe that if we were in the presence of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, if he was coming to teach us and, we really were in his presence, why would we look for Abdul Qadir Jilani? Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu was with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in just about every battle, with the exception an expedition, with the exception of Tabuk, where Prophet said, "You have to stay there. Uh, you are like to me as Harun was to Musa." Why would I or you or anybody else be taught by Hazrat Ali, you know, Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, and then look forward and want to, look forward to Abdul Qadir Jilani? I mean, do we know the difference between Imam Ali, like the ayats of the Quran that were revealed for Ali radiallahu anhu? He was definitely Ahlul Bayt. He definitely was Ahlul Bayt, no questions about it. Can you really, and fairly say that you would leave the presence or you would be expecting for better knowledge from Abdul Qadir Jilani than Ali radiallahu anhu? Who is Abdul Qadir Jilani? Do you even know him? So we are giving you the opportunity to accept the truth and to stand firm for the truth and assist in that and be, satisfied and be free from this doctrination of so-called Islam, Jilan Islam. Discuss it and ask yourselves if you are in fact wrong in your assertions, your tales that have been given to you by your deceived hallucinations and the tales that you have been fed. Do you expect that to be still deeds of Jannah because you intended for your murshid and your community to be so happy and having such an honor with you? Would that give you Jannah? Does your Jannah depend on how happy your community and your murshid is? I don't know. I don't know that to be the case. But again, as the youth, we're hearing the youth. We're hearing even a lot of the elders and the youth. We're here for the youth, but the elders, I mean, we have to say, you know, um, do as much as you can, as best you can, for the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fulfill the duty that Allah entrusted you to. Those who are Hufaz al-Quran, those who are Qurra and TMOA and students, come clean. Be honest. One of you has to tell the truth that this man could not recite Quran, and because he could not recite, he could not explain. And being that he was trying to, being that he took it on himself, that made it a fraudulent act. That is what makes it shirk and kufr. That's what makes it nifaq. That's what makes it fasad. He was destroying instead of fixing. People were not even understanding what he was saying, but still yelling, Ji Abu Ji. Yes, my father, yes. And you're not going to be able to justify falsehood ever. Not ever. Neither would you be able to use falsehood to substantiate your wrongdoing, or use another wrongdoing to substantiate your own wrongdoing. None of that is destined for Jannah. I feel that the biggest problem, again, is knowing that there is a problem, but you don't want to do anything about it. And I will continue to bring this to the forefront. We know we have these issues, again, of misinformation and disunity. We know we have ambiguity between us. We know we have all of these things, but you don't want to sit down and discuss them thoroughly. It's almost as if you're encouraging the Iblisi forces to continue to take away from our consensus of Islam, our consensus of Muslimin, and that is wrong. So I think, inshallah, we will continue to be on the track of that in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored us with. And we see K2 or Khalifa, whatever. I mean, he's up there just quoting random ahadith. Allah did this, and then his nur came out that way. He made Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam from his own, I mean, nur, his own light of his own self. They went around, and it's all in the book. The Futuhu Muhammadiyah is terrible. There is no justification. There is no authenticity in it. And until we sit down and discuss what, where, and why, how, and come to terms about it, do so civilly and respectfully, then no, there will be no seizure of military, spiritual, intellectual hostilities. We will continue to make very clear that your man, your guy, deceased, that the Suleimani Brigade themselves tell us that they were present when his soul was being taken, and we're accepting that. Yes, his soul, when Mubarak Jilani's soul was being taken, elements of the Suleimani Brigade were there witnessing his soul being taken. And by the way, they make it very clear that they were cursing him as he was departing, as his soul was being. They were cursing him for this. This is what we are being told today. Prior to him passing, we actually had sent a message to him, letting him know that he was to relinquish the authority of the Muslims of America to the People's Republic of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They used to give him that message, and yeah, they witnessed Suleimani Brigade, witnessed his soul being taken, and they were there cursing him because for 21 years we were asking the question why this man could not come here, and they were lying to us. Why is it this man's English was not clear? They were lying to us about that as well. This man could not recite the Quran, and then come to find out that instead of people being about the fact that, his Quran was not right or his English was not right, you were actually using fear tactics to raise the people with, saying if anybody says that they can't understand his English, that means their hearts are darkened. If you say anything bad about him, you're going to go to hellfire. I mean, who do you say that for? Allah, his messenger? But when one is wrong, you're not, what is that? What kind of Islam? That's an Islam to indoctrinate you to keep worshiping other than Allah. And even if he's saying, worship Allah, don't do anything other than Allah Ta'ala alone, blah, blah, blah. This is what he's saying, but how he is behaving is showing opposite. With another statement, if you don't fear Allah, then fear me. All right? Or, I'm going to be interceding for people to go to Jahannam on the day of judgment because they gave cell phones to their children, Very strange things. And so today you have to come to terms. You have to denounce that to be Islam, and you have to denounce the fact that he was actually a spiritual leader. We do not care that you're fearful or think that you're going to get kicked out. We have a welcoming center package, everything for anyone who wants to come clean about it. 100% on public platform. Anyone who wants to get out publicly, we have a public welcoming package, and that's going to be that. But we're not going to sit back and allow people, because we are the custodians of the Quran. This is the Allied Spiritual Operational Quranic Revolutionary Forces. The Quranic Revolution took place in 2021, the very early years. At that time, we were again mentioning what we mentioned earlier about how there's so many issues here, and I already touched on that. And then within that same year, TMOA itself was being probed as to their justification in these practices and the entire 40-year history. They did not want to entertain sitting down and discussing with us. So we sent a message to Mr. Jilani himself, and then how that ended up was obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took him. So now we're giving the message to those who are remaining here. Mr. Hussein Adams and his sister Zainab, and whoever is in Virginia, if it's Khalifa, whatever, it does not matter. We're letting everybody know, this, we've already sworn a mubahala. All right, somebody tried to send a rebuttal of mubahala. They don't know that mubahala even exists in the Quran. How can you ask for Allah's wrath on somebody? Allah Ta'ala told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to do it. That's how. But you don't know Madani period. So this is the problem. But anyway, I think that we will end the live session for now. This was one of our earliest ones, or one of our first live sessions, and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we will continue to have them, get it better populated and suited for the necessary situations there. But inshallah, we will be in touch, and anyone who has any type of questions or concern, because we have a very long route to go. We're currently dealing with the Iblisi forces in the vicinity of the center as well as the east. We did, alhamdulillah, manage several maneuvers and counter-maneuvers, and took a lot of ground east and west of Ar-Rabin and Arqash. And from there now, the mobilization effort is going up north, where there's a very serious and very heavy encounter to be expected there. But I think that this is enough for anyone who is interested to follow the events, because really the spiritual journey has been a very, very, very long one. I'm not going to say that it has been one of my own personal choosing. In fact, that story is quite different. I'm going to have to get to that on a different scale. I want to say also, speaking on behalf of the retired Imam's office, those who believe that Sufi is nonsense, is foolishness, that is incorrect. I'm not going to encourage anybody to be, and say to anybody to be a Sufi. I myself am not ever going to tell you that I am Sufi. So I just want to make sure we're not saying that everybody in TMOA is a bad person. My own daughters are in TMOA. My own son now is in TMOA. My own wife is in TMOA, and that's again a problem, but another story. But what I will say is that wherever you are, you have to use your critical mind. Allah Ta'ala gave you mind to use it. So just ask yourselves, what deeds am I doing as I am here on this earth are deeds of Jannah? Because any deed that is not a deed of Jannah is deed of Nar, and it's that simple. Don't sell yourself short in accepting a watered-down version of Islam that only tells you about the mercy of Allah without telling you about His wrath. Neither take the Islam that only stresses the wrath and not the mercy, or the Islam that gives you all these nice, beautiful today qualities of human beings and asserted to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam without giving you the facts of his Madani period. Because he was a warrior, because he was a soldier, this is an all Madani period. It was not all fun and games like, you want to paint Islam to be, so that people can remain, as they are, just accepting whatever comes their way. We have not had a chance to live under Islamic ruling, and by Allah, we look forward to the day. As of today, Allah Ta'ala has enabled us to have it in our hearts. And since He's enabled us to have it in our hearts, we look forward to the day we will be seeing it with our own eyes. But what we have living under the occupation of the Iblisis in their own capital, I mean, we are just here to fight it away. That's it. We are just here to fight it and ask Allah accept it from us, and we be martyrs. Yes, we will accept that. Better than just sitting back and not doing a thing about it. No, we will fight. So this is all that we had from the events that have taken place, as well as the statements we wanted to get out to all members of the coalition, Muslim citizens and non-Muslim citizens alike. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.